Have you ever just stopped and realized how much of our lives we spend staring at these perfectly flat glass screens? It's all just light and code. But what if they could feel, well, more human? Today, we're going to dig into how something as ancient and solid as stone can actually breathe life into our digital world.
So let's start with a basic question. Why do so many websites and apps just feel flat? I mean, they work, sure, but they often feel kind of sterile, right? Almost like a blank wall. We're tapping away on a surface that has zero texture, zero depths. And believe me, on a subconscious level, our brains really feel that.
And this isn't just about making things look pretty. Not at all. That cold, flat digital environment can actually be mentally draining. It kind of forces our brains into this abstract, unnatural mode, which can lead to this subtle, creeping sense of stress. It's the kind of thing that makes people click away without even knowing why.
Okay, so what is actually going on here? Well, the answer isn't in the code or the pixels. It's buried deep inside our own biology. Let's get into the fascinating science of why our brains are literally hardwired to crave a touch of nature, even when we're just looking at a screen.
It all really comes down to this powerful idea called the biophilia hypothesis. All that means is that we, as humans, have this built-in biological need to connect with nature. I mean, just think about how you feel when you see an incredible sunset or walk through a forest. That's not just a nice feeling, it's a deep, ancient survival instinct kicking in.
And look, this isn't some fuzzy, abstract theory. The benefits are totally real and measurable. Studies show that just looking at natural patterns can literally lower your blood pressure and reduce stress. But for anyone running a business or brand, those last 2 points, that's pure gold. A user who feels relaxed and focused is a user who sticks around, who engages more, and who is way more likely to convert.
So what's the secret sauce here? It's something called fractals. You know, those intricate repeating patterns you see everywhere in nature? In a snowflake, a lightning bolt, or the veins of a leaf. Our brains are absolute experts at processing these patterns. They offer what scientists call organized complexity. It's just enough detail to keep us interested, but not so much that it's overwhelming. It's like the visual sweet spot for our minds.
Okay, so we've established our brains are basically nature-seeking machines. How can we actually use that in digital design? Well, let's dive into the visual language of stone itself and see how it can become this incredible palette for creating very specific emotions and reinforcing a brand's message.
It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. There are 3 main families of rock, and each one tells a totally different story because of how it was formed. Think of this as your cheat sheet for choosing the right texture to build your brand on.
First up, we've got igneous rocks, like granite. These were literally born from fire, cooled magma. And you can see it in their dense, crystalline structure. They just scream strength, stability, permanence. This makes them a perfect backdrop for brands that need to feel trustworthy and solid. Like a bank or a major financial institution.
Then you have sedimentary rocks. These are built up layer by tiny layer over millions of years. You can literally see the history right there in the stone. And that story gives off this wonderful feeling of warmth, of history, of approachability. It's absolutely ideal for brands in wellness, travel, or anything artisanal and handcrafted. And finally, there's metamorphic rocks. These guys are the result of incredible transformation under intense heat and pressure. Think of marble or slate. They create these dramatic, flowing, dynamic patterns. So when you're going for a look of pure elegance, luxury, and sophistication, this is the family you want to be working with, no question.
All right, Siri is great, but let's see how this stuff actually works in the real world. We're going to walk through 3 super practical examples to see how these textures can solve real design problems and help hit some key business goals.
Okay, scenario 1. Our goal is to communicate timeless luxury. Imagine a high-end watchmaker. Their brand is all about precision, heritage, and a quality that's meant to last for generations.
So, on the left, the design is fine. It's clean, but let's be honest, it's pretty generic. Now look at the right. Wow, that simple addition of a polished marble background completely changes the game. It's not just a background anymore, it's a statement. That feeling of age, of quality, of permanence from the marble gets subconsciously transferred to the watch itself, making it feel so much more valuable.
Okay, next goal, we've got an e-commerce site for beautiful, handcrafted pottery. They need an earthy, authentic vibe. The absolute last thing they want is some sterile, clinical product page that feels totally disconnected from the art.
The standard white grid on the left It works, but it feels so cold and detached, right? But by adding that subtle sandstone texture to the product cards on the right, everything immediately feels more grounded, more real. That hint of texture reinforces the handcrafted promise and gives the products a tactile quality you can almost feel right through the screen.
And for our last example, let's take an environmental nonprofit. They want their website footer, the very foundation of every single page, to feel stable, serious, and deeply rooted in their mission to protect the Earth.
Now, a typical footer is just there. It's a utility space. But look what happens when you anchor it with this dark slate texture. It transforms from an afterthought into a powerful closing statement. That rugged, earthy feel provides a solid foundation for the entire page, and it makes that donate button feel more significant, more permanent. It visually reinforces everything the organization stands for.
Now, of course, you can't just slap a texture on something and call it a day. Using them effectively is about more than just picking a pretty pattern. It really requires a strategic and thoughtful approach. So let's go over the key principles to make sure your design is both beautiful and super effective.
Okay, 3 rules to live by. First, and this is non-negotiable, guarantee readability. Your text has to be easy to read, so always check your color contrast. Second, don't go overboard. Less is more. Use subtle textures for big areas and save those dramatic show-stopping patterns for smaller accents. And finally, you have to prioritize performance. A gorgeous design is totally useless if the page takes forever to load. Optimize those images.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that using natural textures is not just some fleeting design trend. It's a really powerful psychological tool. It's about remembering that at the end of the day, we're designing for human beings, and we can use these ancient, beautiful patterns to create digital spaces that feel more comfortable, more engaging, and ultimately are just plain more effective.
And that really brings us to our final question for you. I want you to take a hard look at your own projects, your own websites, your own apps, and ask yourself this: what does your digital foundation really feel like? Is it just a flat collection of elements? Or does it have a solid, authentic foundation that truly connects with the people on the other side of the screen?